Welcome to our weekly tech review, where we explore the latest trends, news, and updates from the world of technology. This podcast is the perfect source for staying up to date with what is important to know right now. With me today, I have Vincent and Chris, and of course myself. Hi, I am Tarek. You can watch all episodes on YouTube or listen to us on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcast while you work out, drive, or maybe even travel through space. So let's jump into the news, and today we will start with Chris and Microsoft and Chat GPT.
Right, yeah. I've brought an article that actually I was a little bit startled about when I read the headline, and this is more or less sounding as follows. So Microsoft researchers plan to let Chat GPT control robots. I don't know how you think about that, but I think that is a little bit crazy, to be honest. So what I read here is that they want to allow ChatGPT to break out of the confines of the computer and be used in the real world, right? I mean, sure, the named goals in the article seem to be noble and also sound harmless, right? Like helping people, especially elderly people in their homes and so on and so forth. And that combined with pictures, which we can see here in the article, of cute and cuddly little baby robots, stuff like that. But I would say, let's have a reality check here. So we all know that this is marketing. And we all know that this is, of course, a start of a new, I would say, development of a new era. So those little robot cuties might be warming up your soup today, or get you some lemonade or whatever is said in the article. But of course, they also will grow up tomorrow. And Tarek, you know what that means? One of your famous pictures. Here we go.
Where is it?
Yes. That fits so perfectly. All right. I mean, but back to serious talk. I mean, think about the following, and this is fact checking, right? There is an AI, ChatGPT 4 at the moment, and others will be following, no doubt, which we cannot be sure that it will always be doing what you want, because there is a black box decision-making process within the AI. That is fact, and we don't completely understand that. Bam. At the same time, there is no possibility to control the AI entirely because we don't know how to enforce alignment. Bam, the alignment problem. And then we see the AI doing things which it has not been trained for, right? We see, as Microsoft actually put it last week or so, or last month, in a paper saying that we see emerging sparks of AGI. And also, again, we don't know why. Bam. So from my point of view, there is a bit too many not knowing whys. And additionally, we have all these reports of Bing AI actually going crazy, saying weird things to users and in some cases even threatening them. And also with ChatGPT, we have heard that every now and then that it has proven, well, its dark side on more than one occasion. And all of that actually takes me as a more or less reasonable thinking human to the inside that if you have an AI system which you do not totally understand, which you cannot entirely control, and which shows sparks of AGI, you just don't put that into the brains of a robot. I mean, it's bad enough that such system actually is accessible to literally everyone nowadays, and that from my point of view, a not ready to go system is being built into commercial products big time at the moment, right? But from my point of view, putting that also into robots, into the real world, so to say, this would be the next step of letting free to the world a potential teenage rampage AI or even AGI.
I know what you're saying. And I understand that this is kind of scary, but I am not sure if I am really afraid of that unless we put GPT-4 into a killer robot. So the robot should not be armed. I totally agree with that. But the smaller experiments with having it move autonomously through your apartment or something, I think this is something that I'm really, really curious to see. And of course, it always depends on what could go wrong. But I think if we don't try what happens if we use something like GPT-4 in a robot shell, we will not be able to learn from it and improve. And I could imagine that, right now we are trying to use GPT-4 for basically everything. And this is not the way to go. And I could imagine that in the next generation, of these language models, we will create more specialized models, that, like we are doing it right now for code generation, for example. There are specialized models for code generation. And I could imagine that when we now learn what the problems and the limitations of robot controlling AI is, that we will then generate more specialized models for that. But for this, we have to try and to learn what is happening. And of course, maybe learning in a lab environment and not directly at home. I could see that. This is interesting that you mentioned that. So this is actually one of the impressions that I have, that AI feels to me a little bit like, if you want to put it in a bad way, a little bit like a virus, right? So it's out there and it's spreading, and it has its dangers, right? It has its threats. There's lots of possibility and lots of opportunity to do really great things with AI, but like with every technology, so it is per se a neutral thing. So it's not bad, it's not good. In the end, it's the question of how to use it. How does humankind use the potentials of AI? And well, we know that there are many money and power-seeking forces out there that will use AI and AGIs for their purposes, whatever that might be. So, and I'm realistic enough to say, okay, this is a development which cannot be taken back, right? So it's AI, AGI is a thought that has been brought to the world. And if the thought is out there, you cannot take it back. So the development will be coming one way or the other, and all of us, we will experience that. So it will be definitely an interesting future. But also, Tarek, be realistic. It will not stay with that, like little robots, as said, bringing lemonades or warming up soup or whatever you want to learn from them and have them in your household. Of course, sooner or later, there will be killer robots. I mean, not maybe killing robots, but robots who will also be armed and for whatever reason as robot soldiers, or to have actually guards on the borders or whatever. So all this will be coming. So it would not be realistic and would be actually naive saying that this is not becoming. So absolutely, what we see here is a start, and future will be coming. Sometimes I feel a little bit like Will Smith in iRobot. And okay, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's interesting times, but as said, it has potential, but I also see lots of threats. And what I also see is, like, we had this call from Elon Musk saying, okay, let's give it a break for some months. I mean, also this, it will not happen, not in the Western world, but especially not in the other worlds. So if one stops, it's a race, right? And if one actually is getting slower or just stops the race, all the others will be being even faster. So nobody will stop the whole development, and it will be coming. Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of Elon Musk, I am really laughing about his comments of let's pause AI development for half a year while he is preparing to create his own AI company. And so asking everyone around him to say, okay, let's stop developing this stuff and wait for me until I have my own AI company and I can work on the same level. This feels a little bit shady, to be honest. Yeah,
absolutely.
But in terms of with the killer robots, I see what you're saying here. And at some point of time, I am absolutely sure that AI is going to control airplanes and drones and robots on the ground with guns. But this article that we are seeing here talks about like this first experiment of having a robot shell controlled by a large language model, even though it might not be made for this. So I see in terms of the danger and the threats that we are faced with, it's not going to happen that this generation of experiment is going to have a gun. Nobody in his right mind would start with an experiment that is actually going to kill humans. And I think if we are talking about, for example, autonomous vehicles, those are way more dangerous than the small robot that is supposed to get me a glass of coffee, a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And so talking about dangerous AI, self-driving cars might be more dangerous than the GPT-controlled robot. So now.
As said, so I'm totally with you. So what we see here is harmless. But from my point of view, this is a start of a development. Yes. And I mean, we have seen developments like we're talking about sparks of AGI now, right? So 2 or 3 years ago, everybody who had been asked and who was an expert in that field said, yeah, AGI, maybe it will be coming, maybe not. So it's a big task. Maybe it's not solvable. And if so, then 50 years, the earliest, maybe 2070 or 2080, 90, something like that. And now we are about actually to see sparks of AGI. And now the newest estimations go up to 5 to 10 years until AGI is there. And again, I see the race. The race is open, right? Everybody is trying to be the first with a real AGI system, and things will happen. I mean, you cannot discuss that away. And if you just see like little cutie robot shells here is one thing. But you know that, I know that it won't stay like that, right? Of course, they will be bigger. The little baby robots will grow up. There will be teenage rampage, and sooner or later they will have guns. That's the way it is, Tarek.
Okay, let's wait until next week. Then we can talk about the armed robots.
And now,
all right, let's continue with how Amazon's big bet on Just Walk Out stumbled.
Yeah, so maybe you recall, I think maybe we have 2023 now, so maybe around 8 years ago, we heard about this concept for the first time, maybe 7 years ago, but it was iPhone without a notch time, that for sure, when Amazon presented this concept. And the idea is super simple, right? You have a phone or a credit card. You walk into the store, you swipe the card when you get into the store, and then you leave. It's quite easy. And this was a project that is being worked on by Amazon until this day. It is still being worked on regarding based on one source. Amazon has around 1,000 people just working on Just Walkout stores, mostly based in India. Amazon didn't comment on that, but declined that the number is 1,000. No matter what the actual number is, Amazon is still trying to push it into the market. But the reality is, the market is not really interested in that. We can see now that self-checkout is becoming more and more famous, even here in Germany. We see that self-checkout with Rewe, with Edeka and other chains, they implemented even more. And this concept of the completely cashierless store is not really going off like it's supposed to be. What are the reasons for that? Well, it becomes more clear and clear over time, and now actually this is, I wouldn't call it the tipping point, but Amazon just lost another co-op with another US retailer for Just Walkout stores, which is the reason of this article. It is much more complicated and much too difficult to actually provide the service of Just Walkout stores. The stores have to be equipped with the equipment, which is very expensive, up to 200K this can cost. it doesn't mean that necessarily people, less employees work in the store, because every shelf now needs a camera to be tracked. And that means that also everything needs to be sorted very well. And funnily enough, I don't know if you recently went to a US American food store. I know, Tarek, that you did. I don't know about you, Chris. You know that in the US everything is much more and much better sorted than it is the case here in Germany, just because of the principle of how drugstores and regular grocery stores are run in the US. So this concept is very limited, because as soon as this very clean logic of one product and then a small space and then there's another product coming, this technology doesn't even work anymore. So we can see that in the end, even though it might be in the end a very cool and modern way to shop, the effectiveness that once connected with this is not very much existing. And Amazon currently mostly operates test stores to show how great this is, but in the end needs a huge workforce to install the technology, needs a huge workforce around the clock to maintain this technology. And then there is a lot of frustration on the customer side, because as soon as something is not very well sorted, the technology just does not work anymore. Last point, the resources that are used are very much used to manually double check transactions. It's a bit like Siri and Apple. Around 800 to between 700 and 800 of the 1,000 transactions are currently audited manually to train the AI to understand better the purchases and these kind of things. This is far away, because Amazon actually said around that time now they would be down between 30 and 50 per 1,000. So they're far away from their goal.
Yeah. I mean, still, I would give kudos to Amazon to still testing out these new concepts, and they have the cash to do that. They are not going to get bankrupt because they have like a failed experiment in this, even on the scale. And from the beginning, it was questionable if this is going to work. And if they now say it's not really worth it and it's not going to work, okay, it's fine. They also have their drone program. They also had, what was it? I think they still have this smart lock system where they say, okay, we automatically open doors for delivery people or something like that. And if they weren't testing that, we would never learn if it's going to work or not, right? And even though maybe today I'm in a very positive mood and in a very trying mood, and I say, let's try to allow robots to be steered by GPT, and let's try to have self-operated warehouse stores. I think if we don't try it, we will never learn if it's actually going to work or not. Yes, of course, we should not learn with armed robots, but I mean, this store at the end, it's maybe a loss for maybe having like these armed robots guarding the self-checkout warehouse.
That would have been
So you were stealing, we heard. All right.
But I mean, in the end, of course, we had to try it, and I wasn't aware that it's so expensive to actually build these things and operate these things. And to be honest, I never was in one of these stores, and I wasn't sure how they are actually tracking the stuff that you're taking out of the shelves. They are scanned, if they have like NFC chips on it or something like that. But yeah, obviously it's not really thought out in terms of replicability, how to replicate this in a sense that you can actually finance this in the long term. But it showed that Amazon is cherishing innovation in that matter, and they want to have these new concepts tried out. Yeah, and so even if it is like a failed experiment, I really think it is a great experiment to be done. Yeah, and I could imagine maybe they even have the learnings. What exactly are the problems, so that maybe in 10 years from now, someone else is going to build something on top of that with the new technology, I don't know, robot support or whatever, that then it might work out.
It's funny that you say that, because actually that already happened, and Rewe here in Germany is actually one of the best examples.
Really?
Because Amazon, I mean, with this, Amazon positioned themselves very much also in a hardware, in the hardware industry, right? Not something they're not very much familiar with, but still, this is now a software as a software as a service product, a AWS product. This just happened that they reorganized the Just Walk Out concept into AWS, and the reason for that is because here in Germany, for example, the biggest not retailer, the biggest company to provide self-checkout registers and things like the app of Rewe, where you can scan your products or Edeka and just pay via the app and just leave the store again with a digital receipt. These kind of things are built on a pure software as a service product that is powered by Google, because Google saw the this is my assumption now. My assumption is Google saw the Just Walk Out concept, and they had their own store concept which they killed, I think, in 2018. The article said, or 2019, but something between 17 and 19, one of these things, one of those years, and that means that they definitely had a unit working on this. They killed the physical part, but I'm very much sure that they saw the opportunity for cloud services to operate these kinds of businesses. And we see now, for example, I mean, us all living in Germany, most of us living in Germany, we see that this actually was exactly the right way to go, because in the end, retail stores will produce or buy or provide, supply, whatever you want to call it, their own registers, and the software behind it is what makes it successful.
Yeah. Again, it's Google.
Again, it's Google. Isn't that the best transition, Tarek, to you?
Exactly.
I think that's again, it's Google, guys.
Perfect segue.
And now,
let's continue with my article. And it's not really this one article. You might have seen that right now it's everywhere in the press, because yesterday we had the Google I/O 2023 and everyone was waiting for what is presented there, because we all know right now Microsoft and OpenAI are the big winners in the AI race so far. But everyone is waiting for the one big step of Google, where they say, okay, our AI technologies are closing up, and we provide services that might be as good as or even better as the things that we see right now from Microsoft and OpenAI. And at least the demos that we saw on Google I/O were really, really promising. So for example, they presented the new Google Maps service, where they say we now have an immersive view for routes, where you not only get like the Google Maps calculations, but actually a simulated flyby of the route that you're going to take, and see what is going on there, and maybe even evaluate which of the routes that were presented to you are more attractive to you. Yeah, so you can directly simulate a flyby of whatever you seek. Then they had this Magic Editor and Magic Compose, which is something that is not completely new. We saw this already experimentally in some startups and wherever, where you have an existing image and you can tell the machine what you want to be changed on this image. And there was one example where a child was holding a cloud of balloons, and the balloons were cut off because the image was like at the border. And it was possible to move the child with the balloons into the center of the image and reconstruct everything what was behind the child and the rest of the balloons, and having like a beautiful picture. Then replacing the sky with more friendly sky with sun, and then the image was automatically corrected, that even the shadows on the floor and the child was then lit correctly. So it is kind of a faking of images, but it's like now intelligent faking. So it is really, really like a perfect fake. Yeah, and this is something that is going to be available for all Google users. And then, of course, maybe the biggest step forward is the presentation of the new Palm 2 language model, which is going to be then part of BART. And right now we know Bard does not have the best reputation compared to GPT, or at least GPT-4, but they are getting there. And even though they say that Palm 2 is not trained with as many parameters as GPT-4, they basically say size doesn't matter. the network needs to be trained in a more efficient way. And so they present that this new Palm 2 model is going to be as powerful as the GPT models. And they are going to use it for different use cases. And even though we don't see the screenshot here right now, they showed that they are going to present several versions of the Palm 2 model. A very, very small version that is going to be able to be operated on mobile devices, so that you can locally on the mobile device use this small version of Palm 2. And of course, then the large model for other use cases. And one very, very interesting announcement was that Google is going to work together with Adobe, and they introduced the new Adobe Firefly product, which you probably also have heard in the last weeks, in their image search and image manipulation service. So now you can directly tell the image search, what was it that they have here? Like, I want to have an image of a unicorn at a birthday party or something like that. And Firefly is going to generate that. And this is, of course, something that they use to attack Microsoft and their DALL-E model, which is going to be introduced in the Microsoft suite. And so what we see right now is that Google is following up Microsoft. And at the end, it might happen that the final products that we are going to use on Google will then be superior to Microsoft. This is, of course, not factual. This is what Google is wishing for. But we see in this race that Google is coming up with their own product suite, and Microsoft might soon lose their lonely position at the top. Then, of course, on Google Workspace, we will have all these tools within Microsoft Word and Office. Sorry, Microsoft. In the Google, in the Google Drive and Google Writer services, and they had a demo where they showed like email, Google Mail, and you have an email from your something like plane tickets, and you typed in, please write me an email for demanding a refund, and then it was generating, based on the previous emails that you had, a perfect response to the airplane, to the airline, to the airline with your complaint and that you want a refund. And it's perfectly formulated email, and this is exactly what we are using ChatGPT right now, but with copy and pasting everything. And there, the BART model will directly access your emails and formulate with this context the perfect replies. Then we have Music LM, generating music from text prompts. We have image search, and then some more things like Sidekick, Cody for code generation, and so on and so on. And I think one thing that I don't see in this article right now, but which is also very impressive, is the Google Search. And Google Search is going to be extended exactly as Microsoft presented it right now on Bing, but better. At least the demo looked better than just the chat search. So you're searching for something in your prompt, and the chatbot is answering your search result with a formulated answer like a person would do, knowing all the answers. And additionally, you get the explanation of why this response is like that, with sources that BART is accessing, and of course product recommendations, and of course like the original search result page, plus some additional follow-up questions that you can ask, of course, based on this context. Yeah, and this feels like a more round, more complete search result experience. And this is where Google, as we all know, is shining compared to the old Bing. And so I really expect that the new Google Suite that they are going to present during this year is going to be a really hard competitor for Microsoft and Bing. At least this is what it looks like based on the presentation that they gave on Google I/O. We know all this is all a lot of marketing in there, and the real deal must be as good as their marketing materials. But right now, Microsoft owns everything. In the near future, this might change. Have you seen the Google I/O presentations?
Yes, I have seen it. I tried to watch the whole thing, but I was very busy. Fortunately, Google and Apple are doing exactly the same thing, and Volkswagen, by the way, as well. They do a 10-minute version of the whole thing. I can only suggest to everyone that to have a look at that. I found it very interesting. I don't know. I have to say, I had a look at all of these things, and maybe we are abgestumpft in German. We are, I don't know, numb already when it comes to this. I watched the whole thing in the end, and I thought, well, this is not reinventing the wheel. I mean, it was amazing to see the bike ride through San Francisco, I think it was.
Yeah.
The image creation tool, Magic Creation, I think it is called. Not Magic Eraser, it's Magic Creation this time. Amazing tool. All of these things, amazing. The search, yes. But in the end, honestly, kind of something I thought kind of, this is where we're going. I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I think it's actually the massive introduction of especially AI systems into all of these components and the bandwidth of tools which they offer in a new quality, right? So it's not the single tool, the single application which just gives you a boom, but this massive ramp up of all these tools coming together in a suit. So this, I think, is quite impressive, especially if you compare that to what we had 1-2 years ago, before the whole ChatGPT 4 or 3 hype, or ChatGPT hype as such actually came up, the AI hype. So all of this was there, but now it has reached another level. And from my point of view, again, it's the AI discussion, right? It's not the tools as such which makes the difference, but it's this one component, the salt in the soup, so to say, the AI component, which now gives the whole thing a new dimension. And we'll see what happens. And especially, again, my point, I think that all of these AI systems are not really fully understood and finally or developed or finished in their development. So this is what makes the whole thing very interesting for me, that all of these are being put into commercial operational products. And I'm really looking forward to how the whole thing will develop technically, but also there's another aspect which we have also discussed in TechReview again and again. Of course, also the perfection which you have now with all these AI-based systems. What does that make, so to say, with our society? What does that make with our trust in the whole news media section? So now that where everybody, again, nearly every or literally everybody can fake their holiday pictures, their news pictures, or so you don't know what to believe any longer, right? So fake news is now open. All doors are open, and you can prove everything with a picture you have created on your own. So I mean, this is challenging, I think.
Yeah. We have to learn to live with that, because seriously, I think this is the new reality we are living in, and there's no going back. And the only question is if it's Microsoft or is it Google who launches the next generation of services. But I think this is the reality we have to get used to. All right. Okay, I think we are all out of time, and that's it for today. Thank you so much for your articles, and see you next week. Bye.